Hey, what is going on, my friends, and welcome back to another video on the channel. In today's video, we are going over Castor Maritime, ticker symbol CTRM. Now, they have gotten a lot of good news recently, and something that I wanted to go over was just a review of this news, a review of what it means for the stock. We'll go over the Baltic Dry Index. We will go over some implications about a potential super cycle. I will show you all what I have been doing with my positions in Castor Maritime, and then we will also go over their stock price. So if you are interested in this video, you can let me know by smashing that like button and subscribing to the channel. Now, whenever it does come to this video, I have already posted all of the notes that will be included and talked about in today's video in my Patreon. So if you are interested in getting any of these notes early, if you're interested in getting all of this information as I do get it, definitely go down to the link in the description. It'll bring you over to my Patreon, and that is where I am fully transparent with all of that information. Also, if you are looking to expand out into a new brokerage or start your own investment journey, I 100% recommend using Webull. If you use the referral link down in my description, whenever you open an account, you deposit $100 in it, you will get 2 free stocks valued all the way up to $1,850. They are a fantastic brokerage, and I think this is an opportunity that everyone should capitalize on because, hey, who doesn't like some free stocks? But with that being said, let's go ahead. Let's talk about Castor Maritime. Let's see what we have gotten recently, and let's talk all about them. So, whenever it comes to Castor Maritime, as we can see here, on March 19th, they announced the delivery of the MV Magic Orion and the MV Magic Margo. Now, whenever it comes to the Orion, it is going to be chartering at a daily gross charter rate of about $21,000 and a term of about 35 days. The MV Magic Argo is supposed to be operating at a daily gross charter rate at about $25,100, and its term is expected for about 4 months. So we have one that's going to be about a month, and we have one that's about 4 months. And one thing I have noticed about some of these contracts is they tend to start a little bit smaller, like maybe a month or two, and then they start to expand out, and then they start to reach maybe like a year, 2 to 3 or 4 years, etc. So what I wanted to talk about today is just the overall amount in which we have seen them taking delivery. I think I have a good reason as to why they've been making the deliveries of so many of them right now, and then we're also going to talk about some numbers. So as we did see here, again, one more time, we did see that they had these two going, one at about 21,000 and one at about 25,100. Well, we also did see last week that they announced the delivery of the MV Wonder Polaris, and then this one is going to be operating at about $15,000 every single month. And then last but not least, we did see the Magic Venus, which is going to be operating at a daily gross charter rate of about $18,500. Now, if we do go ahead and we take a look, that does bring it out to about the delivery of 4 vessels, which is going to be a daily gross charter rate of $79,500 from those 4 combined. Now, this is the most amount that we have seen them take delivery of in a single 50-day span, and honestly, that's within a 50-day span. This has all been within about 20 days, all within the month of March. Now, I think that this is a fantastic move by Castor Maritime. I think it's beautiful that they're taking advantage of the opportunity at hand. They see that there is such a very high demand. Commodity prices are increasing, demand is increasing, and a lot of these different companies need their vessels. And so with that being said, they're getting these contracts going, they're getting all of the the services, and they're providing for what the demand is needing, right? So whenever it comes to overall what is going on with this company, what am I expecting, going forward, where is all of this gonna go? Well, in my honest opinion, I think that this is just getting started for Castor Maritime. I think that there's still a lot of growth going forward. I think that there's going to be a lot of things coming within the next few months that are just absolutely going to change the overall timeline of Castor Maritime itself. Over the last few years, we have seen them slowly start to try to figure everything out. They were trying to figure out what they were going to do, how they were going to get these vessels. We saw some different financings, we saw different things, but it seems like as they are starting to really begin this growth, this exponential growth, that it is only going to be expedited by the delivery of all of these different vessels. Now, one reason I do believe that this is going to be very, very big for the company is because in the past we have seen their pattern, right? As we do see here, it says that whenever they would basically go, let's go a little bit further down here, we would see that they would do something like a $26 million registered direct offering, and then they would announce the Capesize bulk carrier vessel acquisition maybe like 2 weeks later. Or we would see some type of $15.3 million debt financing. Then about a week or two later, we would see the announcement of the vessel acquisition. So what we were seeing is they were needing a lot of cash to be raised in order to acquire these vessels, and then which they would, have these daily gross charter rates on and get their investment back. The thing about it is, as they do continue to get these vessels delivered, as they do continue to get all of these different vessels on the water, and they're bringing in, $80,000 a month from only the 4 vessels they delivered this month alone, and we got to consider they have 14 of them. We have to think about the fact that that is going to allow them to have a lot more upfront capital. As they do have a lot more capital and they have a lot more cash on hand, that is going to allow them to purchase some of these vessels without having to dilute shares, without having to do all these raisings. And I think that's a very good thing for 2 reasons, right? we have to consider, as they do a lot of these different capital raisings, as they do a lot of direct offerings, as an investor, that hurts because they're diluting shares a lot, and that's not good as a shareholder, especially if you do have a very large position into them, some of those bigger institutional investors. Now, another thing about that is, as they are capable of purchasing some of these vessels with their cash on hand, that is then going to allow them to get these vessels acquired much faster. Right now, they're seeing a very good time in the market where a lot of these different charter rates are growing, and we will talk about that in a second here. And I think it is important and essential that they use this opportunity at the moment to get as many of these different contracts and as many of these different vessels signed right now, because a lot of them are long term, and as they are going to be able to capitalize on the moment and the opportunity at hand, that is only going to allow them to grow even further in the future. Now, what I want to talk about now is going to be the Baltic Dry Index. So if we do go ahead and we pull it up here, the Baltic Dry Index has been absolutely soaring. I mean, it's coming up at about 2,300 right now, and we can see that basically since December, honestly, this thing has been on fire. Now, if you're unsure about what the Baltic Dry Index is, it basically tracks the overall average price that these companies can charge in order to charter out their ships. So, of course, whenever we do see this start to increase, that means that the amount that someone like Castor Maritime can charter out their vessels is going to be going up. That means demand is increasing. That means that the price is going to be increasing, and we are seeing a lot of growth. This is good for the industry. As the industry does start to see a lot of these different charters increase, that means commodity prices are increasing, and overall, it's a very good sign, especially for Castor Maritime. So as we do continue to see this go up, some people are starting to get a little bit nervous, like, how long is this going to last? Why is this happening? And I think there are a few reasons as to why we are seeing some of this growth. Well, as we do see here, there has been a few key reasons as to why we've seen a lot of these prices start to increase, and I think a lot of them are essential to get some type of estimate as to how long this is going to last. Well, as we do see here, one of the first reasons is going to be that vessel operators on a second-hand buying spree as order book touches historical lows. So basically, we're seeing a lot of second-hand vessels get acquired right now, a lot of purchases. We have to think whenever it does come to Castor Maritime, all of the vessels they're purchasing things from 2005, 2006, 2007. There's a common denominator there, is that there's a lot of second-hand buying. As that does happen, it's going to, of course, push a lot of these prices up, and that is going to see a lot of growth. Next up, we are seeing China and Chinese policies work the market. It says here that the growth in charter rates has been led by various direct and indirect drivers, including global optimism after the success of various vaccines and an ultra-loose monetary policy in major economies. The various stimuli packages, especially from the Chinese government, focused primarily on infrastructure development, which drove iron ore demand. This was further aided by the increasing soya imports. So as we are seeing China start to stimulate their economy, as they are starting to see commodity prices rise again, we know that China is a very important factor in the overall Castor, the maritime market itself. And so we have to consider that as they are starting to see demand, there's going to be a lot more imports, a lot more exports, and of course that is going to increase the average price of these charters. Lastly, we are seeing a political dispute between Australia and China as well that could be very important going in the future as to how a lot of these different shipments are happening, because as Australia and China do start to have political tensions, as there are issues there, they're not going to be doing as many imports and exports to each other. Well, what does that what happens from that? What follows that? Well, each country is then going to diversify their overall portfolio of different companies or countries in which they're going to be shipping to, and that is going to increase the overall demand for other countries. Whenever we see places like South Africa starting to pick up, we're starting to see places along the Midwest pick up. I think all of that is going to be very important to seeing a lot of these prices continue to climb, and we could very likely see a super cycle coming that could last 3 to 4 quarters, in my opinion. I think over the next year we are going to see this Baltic Dry Index continue to climb. I genuinely wouldn't be surprised if we do see a little bit of a dip every now and then, of course, as that does happen with every single tracker. But I do believe overall we are going to see a very strong growth pattern over the next couple months. And I think over the next year, this thing could very easily start to touch some very high highs. So I'm very excited to see where this does go. I think Castor Maritime is doing a fantastic job of taking advantage of this moment. We've been seeing that so many contracts have been being signed within the last couple months. And of course, that is is because of this growth. You know, whenever we have to think about it, if the average prices that they could charge started to go down, the contracts and the long-term contracts in which they would be signing could also be lower, and we could see them get a lower return on investment from their vessels. Because at the moment, say they can charge $25,000 daily gross charter rate for one of their vessels. Well, if this was to start to drop, if prices were starting to drop, demand was lower, well, then we maybe only say maybe $20,000, $21,000 for a daily gross charter rate. And of course, that does add up very, very fast, and that could slow the overall productivity of the business itself. So they are taking advantage of it. They're trying to get as many of these contracts signed. That's why we've seen them take delivery of the most amount of vessels that they ever have within the last month. And I think that that is only going to continue as we do go forward. And lastly, I will show you guys what I have been doing with Castor Maritime. I did slow down a little bit on the amount of shares in which I was buying, but last week was a pretty active week. I bought somewhere around 324 shares. I was picking up shares around that 91 to 92 cent mark. I really think Castor Maritime has the potential to see $1.50 to $2 by the end of the summer, honestly. And so I think going forward that this is still a great buying opportunity. Again, I'm not a financial advisor, and this is not financial advice, but I do believe that this is a great company. I think they have a lot of potential, and that is why I am picking up loads and loads of shares. I'd like to pick up maybe another 300 or 400 shares sometime this week and see how that does grow. That being said, I hope you guys did enjoy today's video on Castor Maritime. If you did, you can let me know by smashing that like button and subscribing to the channel. You can expect 2 to 3 videos from me every single day, and I can't wait to see you all next time. Peace.